I'm leaving. I will be back late, so don't wait up. I was leaving early for my ballet practice as the selection for the contender from Indiana for the National Ballet Convention was next week. My instructor had told me that I had the highest chances of making it from my academy, so they would be giving me some solo lessons until the competition to prepare me. I cycled to my academy every day as it helped regulate my blood before ballet practice. Generally, my twin Jessica would cycle with me, but since I had solo lessons today, Jessica wasn't joining me. The week had flown past quickly. I thought as I looked into my mirror and fitted my blue tutu skirt on my waist. Jessica knocked on the door softly before entering the room with her luggage. "Don't keep your hopes up, Julia." "There's no way to motivate your sister," my dad said to her. He smiled at me. "You're going to be great, honey. Everyone is here, and we will all be cheering for you." "It's just a reality, Dad. There are so many girls here. I don't want her to be disheartened when she loses." I detected a hint of jealousy in Jessica's voice. It was natural for sisters to have a bit of rivalry, especially since we were twins and competing for the same thing. We had both been doing ballet since we were toddlers. However, it quickly advanced to be in a coveted group at my academy. My dance choreographers really believed that I could make it as a ballerina. It was soon time for my performance. I went on stage as everyone whispered good luck. I was satisfied with my performance, and I had caught the judges smiling after I had finished my piece. I walked backstage with a satisfied grin. I changed into some casuals and rushed to sit with my family in the crowd. There were only a few performances left, and soon it was time for the results. We all sat quietly holding hands and praying under our breaths. The announcer walked around with a microphone teasing us. "And the winner is Julia Marvin." "I won!" I shouted. I leaped out of my seat excitedly as my parents stood up proudly. We went home content that night, but I was going to be working very hard for the next month. We would all be flying to Los Angeles for the National Convention. It was the first day of my training for the National Convention. Today I was going to practice in front of all the dancers. My instructors wanted everyone to critique me so that I could achieve perfection in all aspects. As I opened our front door to leave for the academy, Jessica was on the other side. She smiled at me. "I am going to come to you, sister. I know I haven't been so supportive, but I'm so excited for you." She jumped on me to hug me. I was taken aback but happy that she was trying. I got on my bicycle and we left her house together. Jessica was faster than me, and she had already reached the signal ahead and then suddenly turned her cycle around. I thought she's just waiting for me. I cycled faster to get to her, and suddenly I felt a hit on my front wheel, and it sprung me down from my bicycle. A car was speeding towards me, and it made a swift left turn, which saved me. But unfortunately, the wheel went over my foot. I was in so much pain that I fainted. When I woke up in the hospital, my family was around me, looking at me sympathetically. My leg was wrapped up in bandages. I felt extremely anxious and worried about the National Convention. How soon will I be able to be at practice? "You should have been careful, Julia." My mom hushed and came up to sit on the small tool next to my bed. She put her hands over my hands. "Honey, your leg is badly injured. We don't really know if you can make it to the convention." "I'm sorry, Julia. Maybe it wouldn't have happened if you weren't trying to reach me faster." "No, don't blame yourself, Jess. I guess I really should have been careful," I replied to her. I wiped up my tears and asked the nurse, who was checking my vitals, if I had any chances of a quick recovery. She simply pursed her lips and nodded. Just as they had predicted, I was unable to perform at the event, but I had more progress than the doctors had hoped. Within the month, I was already able to limp around. The atmosphere at home had become very stressful. My parents kept talking to Julia about her career choices and advised her to focus on dance as a hobby and try to find something else to focus on as a career. They were worried that I was going to lose my path to since my injury. Our parents were both celebrated ballet dancers, and it was their dream to see both, or at least one of us, follow in their steps. When we began dancing, they always told me that there was something mystical in the way I danced. I had an innate capability, and that always pushed me on. I was confident that I'd be able to fulfill the dream, not just for them, but for myself. It took me 6 months before I went back to my academy to dance like myself again. Everyone watched in awe when I performed the same piece that we had kept for the national convention. I started to participate in competitions again, and my town was surprised to see me on stage. They were delighted by the progress I'd made. A local radio channel asked me for an interview. I talked about my dreams and the hard work I was putting in to make it a reality. The radio interview gave me a boost. People all around started to visit our academy to meet me and watch me perform. The doctors had predicted that I wouldn't be able to strain my ankle enough for ballet, but I had made it. One afternoon, as we were lounging in the living room, an entertainment channel called my father to ask him if I'd be interested in being starred in a documentary. They felt my story would inspire artists everywhere to never give up on their passion, no matter what the circumstances were. Since that documentary was made, my life had gotten very busy, and my parents were the two very strong pillars of my success. I always looked around for Jessica, but she didn't want to be a part of it. I always thought that perhaps she was hiding from the limelight as she was focusing on a different career. It was 3 years after my injury, and I was performing at a fashion show in Chicago. It was a huge event, and my parents were going to fly down to see me. The show was in a month, and I was leaving early for the preparations. My flight was in 2 hours, and I was bidding goodbye to my parents. I asked them about Jessica. Just then, Jessica came towards me, running, and I watched her hands flung out as she tried to push me. My dad pulled my arm just in time, and Jessica fell down the stairs herself. Jess! I reached out to her to help her up. Oh, stop this pretense! Her foot had gotten twisted and her knee was bleeding. She was wailing in pain. Oh, honey, why did you rush like that? I thought Julia was going to get hurt really badly. My mom said to her, trying to soothe her ankle. All you care about is Julia. Everything is about Julia. It's like I just exist to lift her up. I wanted to hurt. I wanted to push her down. Jessica, I know you don't mean that. You're in pain. Let's get you to the hospital. I meant it then, and I mean it now. I hit your bicycle, Julia. Do you still not remember? I wanted you to never dance. What? He put down the first aid kit he was holding in his hands. I am tired of you treating her as if you all owe her something. It's just dancing. I wanted her to never be able to do ballet again. I had hoped she would never walk again. She would be in my shadow then. She would be no one, just my crippled sister. I could hardly utter a word. I saw my father slap Jessica hard. Her face streaked with his fingers. Enough! He came towards me and held my shoulders. You have a flight, Julia. Your cab has been waiting long enough. We will deal with this. He pushed me into the cab, and as the cab moved away from my house, I sat in silence, shocked by what happened. For the whole month, I kept nagging my parents to tell me what had happened and where Jessica was, but they simply kept telling me to focus on the show. After my show, all three of us took a flight together. When we were finally home and I didn't see Jessica around, I questioned them. They told me that they had sent Jessica to a boarding school in Europe. They didn't want her to cause chaos in the house anymore. And they couldn't trust her. She really had caused my previous accident and wanted to cause another one. Instead of focusing on her capabilities, she had always been focused on mine and tried to imitate them. My parents felt that some of it was their fault, as they had made ballet such an important aspect in our lives. They had never considered that their children might be different from their expectations. Do you really love ballet, Julia? Of course. Don't be guilty, both of you. I always loved dancing even before you both had us enrolled at the academy. My parents traveled around the world to watch me perform at different stages. Jessica had started to ignore us. She never called and never picked up any of our calls. So eventually, we left her alone, since that's what she wanted now. My parents always kept a tab on her and found out that after graduating from school, she had started working as a dancer in clubs. They couldn't interfere much, but they hoped that she wouldn't make any wrong choices.